We carry something with the other.
Okay.
Right?
Good.
Hello,
We got somebody who
everyone.
loves the middle school here.
We have recording in progress. So we are all set to go. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I am Corey Sussman, the graduate student liaison for NYSSCA, and we are joined by some wonderful panelists. But before we get started with that, I would like to open the session to our incoming president, Ms. Marjorie Miller, who would like to say a couple of words before we introduce our panelists.
Thank you so much, Corey. This is just amazing to see all of you who are graduating, who graduated, who have found jobs, who are looking for jobs, but that you have found your passion. And that, to me, there are no words. I have been a school counselor for 28 years. And if someone were to tell me 28 years ago where I would be, I would say I would never have imagined that this was my why. Loving students and fighting to ensure they reach their potential goals. And that's what we do every day, and it comes from the heart. And speaking of that, I hope that you think about support. And there are two levels of support, both of which, interestingly enough, NYSSCA has for you as a counselor, school counselor, whether you are there yet, getting there, are there. We provide such support for you so you can support your students. Our membership only advantage has all the necessary tools you need to have your students succeed, and you as well. NYSSCA members are always here to help you whatever issue you may have. We are always available. You have a question, you have a comment, you have an idea, you have whatever support you need for you to be the counselor you want to be, the counselor that you are, the counselor that takes care and advocates for students. So I hope you think very seriously about that, especially those of you that are still in grad school. You actually get a reduction in dues for that. So I always say, you know, for those of you that are still in graduate school, now is the time to really become an NYSSCA member. And for the rest of you, you want a opportunity to really grow and shine. We're here for you day in and day out. And I wish you all the best luck in knowing what your why is. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Pleasure having you, and we really appreciate the incoming president being here tonight, supporting our future graduate students as well as this program. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So I will go in order of what I have our panelists on my screen. So if, Kathy, if you would like to introduce yourself first.
And I unmuted myself. How wonderful. I'm Kathy Corbett. I am a retired counselor. I've been in education for many years, longer than Marjorie, longer than Lisa. I've been hanging around. You name it, I've done it in education. I started I graduated from St. John's with dual certification in elementary K through 12. Grade, it's a kindergartner. They scare me. But I went to counseling later in my career. And that's a long story, but it was the best move I ever made. It allowed me to teach, which I love doing, but it also allowed me the opportunity to work one-on-one with students. So thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight. This is exciting. This is a first. Corey, so thank you for this. But I look forward to seeing, well, not seeing everyone. That would be nice if we turned on your videos, but you don't have to. But hearing your questions, and hopefully we'll have some good answers and some information for you that'll support you as you step out into the world of the certified school counselor. Okay, thanks, Corey.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, this is being recorded. I forgot to mention it will be put up on our YouTube page by our executive director in the next day or two. Okay, our next panelist is Ray Polk. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Ray Polk. I am the NYSSCA VP for middle level. I know I'm very passionate about helping incoming and supporting new counselors to the field. I had some great mentors along the way that I still reach out to. Two of them are here this evening, Dr. Corbett and Lisa Milady, who you'll hear from later on. So trying to pass along some of the knowledge they've taught me. I'm always interested in helping others. This is my second career. I came from a corporate background. And many times when I'm working with new counselors or future counselors, they're also making career changes. And you can be very successful, I believe, using those life skills that you've learned. So welcome, and I will turn it back to Corey.
Thank you. I'm actually curious too, because myself, like Ray, changed careers. I was in higher education for 12 years before becoming a counselor. If you want to share in the chat, if this is you're coming right out of undergrad or took a break, if you had a different career before. I think that's really cool for all of us that are changing careers, but also to see what the proportion of folks that are just coming out of undergrad as well. Okay, our next panelist is Hennessy Lustica. Dr. Lustica, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Hennessy. I am the Vice President for Counselor Educators at NYSSCA. I was a school counselor for 17 years. Now I'm the Community Schools Mental Health Director at the Seneca Falls Central School District and an assistant professor at Medaille University. So my whole life revolves around interns and internship programs and helping students to get placements and doing supervision. So I am really, really excited to be here with all of you tonight.
Thank you. Our next panelist is Lisa Milady.
All right, no, I'm not muted. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited about this because I wish that I even knew what to ask when I started 33 years ago. I've been an elementary school counselor in the same school in Copiague at Doval Gardens Elementary School. I am excited for all of you, and what a great beginning to this, because as counselors, we can easily isolate ourselves under the workload. We take all of our energy to get through the day, to get from the beginning to the end, and then I hope today that you are inspired to look at what happened during the day and say, how can I be better? What do I need to know? Because knowledge is power. And NYSSCA will give you the knowledge, and NYSSCA will also give you the power. And as you begin your careers and you are working so hard, please always reflect, look, and ask yourself, what do I need to know to do better? Don't ever beat yourself up for not knowing all the answers, because when you start, you don't. And even after 33 years, I'm still learning and trying new things every day. And it's exciting and it's wonderful, and it is a calling, like Marjorie said. So good luck to everyone, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And Lisa is president-elect, so after Miss Miller's term, Lisa will be our president, and then following Lisa will be Miss Mary Benezek, who is the president-elect. But I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so looking forward to talking with you tonight. This is my 34th year as a school counselor in Victor Schools outside of Rochester, New York. Prior to that, I was a special ed teacher for 8 years in Williamsville and Buffalo, and director of special ed there. I've been coordinator for counseling K-12 at Victor for the past 5 years, and regional governor. This is my second term with NYSSCA, and I'll be switching over to the president-elect to work with Lisa Milady as she enters her presidency. You know, I've got to say, people have asked, well, you know, when are you going to retire? And I always say, when I get bored. I haven't gotten bored yet. School counseling is probably one of the most wonderful jobs I could have, because I'm part of a team, a collective care team with our school social workers, our school psychs, and our school nurses. We partner together every day, 100 different ways each day with our administrators. So you're never going to be alone. And if you are, all you have to do is reach out, because there's always a support system. And I've really found the support system within NYSSCA, especially during COVID, when we were floundering and trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. I realized we weren't alone, and that other people had the same issues we do. It wasn't our school specifically that was struggling. And it gave me perspective, and that broader perspective has really helped me to help our staff and other counselors in our area. So welcome and best wishes to you all.
Okay, thank you to our panelists for introducing themselves. So let's get into our presentation and our webinar. I want to once again thank you to the graduate ambassadors who volunteered some of their time to really reach out to our programs, their programs, get some questions circulating at the start, really help us advertise it. So if you are here, once again, thank you so much to the graduate ambassadors from the programs that have an ambassador. So I think one of the main things that main reasons why I wanted to host a webinar like this was, as a new counselor myself, I figured out that there's a lot of things I did not know. There were a lot of things I was coming in that I thought I knew. And as a first year counselor, you start really figuring out what you need to know. So there's a lot of topics I had some ideas on. You folks responded in droves in the registration with questions. The graduate ambassadors sent in questions. So I think one of the major questions that I've come across being a high school counselor is, what are the graduation requirements and what are the different diploma types that students can earn? New York State has a lot of different graduation requirements. Each district can choose their own graduation requirement on top of what the state requires, as well as I think there's over 10 different diploma types that are available to our students. So I have this panel of wonderful experts, and I would love for them to share some information, but I'll first talk about how important the NYSSCA website is. The NYSSCA website is like your best friend. It's the New York State's Education Department website. That is going to be your site to go and look for information about almost anything that pertains to yourself, to your students, and to the counseling world. You will find most of the information that our panelists will talk about on the NYSSCA website. And during our presentation, I'll post a couple of the websites that are going to be really important, including the ones about diploma types and diploma requirements. So I open up to the panelists if they want to talk a little bit about that. And we have, oh, there we go. So there is the NYSSCA website. I will post some of the links, like I said, but the New York State Education Department website is really important. You know, this website is great for referencing. I would strongly recommend, if you're in the high school, as a high school counselor, printing out the requirements so you have them next to you on your desk, on your wall, so you can continuously refer to this. You're going to go through your first year, and you're going to have students asking you questions upon questions, making sure that they're on the right path to graduation. And last thing we want to do as counselors is steer them wrong. Many school districts and many counseling departments will have a checklist to ensure that you are your student is following the right path. It will show you the different pathways that your student can follow if they don't want to pursue the language pathway. And this, the NYSSCA site is going to be your friend. It's going to make sure you're compliant. It's going to make sure that you're following all the rules and regulations. It's going to make sure that you as a counselor are following the rules and also doing the best to support your student. Would any of the panelists like to chime in?
Corey, in preparing for this, I got reminded that the NYSSCA website also has a webinar that was done back in October of 2022. And it was on the high school graduation requirements at that moment in time here this school year. But it's a wonderful webinar. It was done by, I believe her name is Melissa Montague from the State Education Department, but NYSSCA hosted it for high school counselors around the state. And not only did Ms. Montague go over the new requirements and the diploma types, she also had hot links to a variety of tools for counselors. There was something for counselors to give to parents, so parents could keep their own running checklist of what their children had accomplished towards their graduation requirements. Can you quickly show the NYSSCA website? I'm sorry, Corey, I'm putting you on the spot here. Okay, but it's under, it would be.
I could try to, but I'm afraid my computer might fail if I do too many
All right,
things.
well, that's okay.
That's my
All
9-year-old
right,
computer that we were discussing
all
about
right.
before.
Well, at the very end, we will give them the NYSSCA website, but this is the video page, and it is on this page. You'll have to scroll through it or do a search of a high school graduation requirement 2022. All right, and it's there. The high school vice president, Donna Craig, was the person here. Oh, I think I see it. Nope, no, but it's there. It's one of the many videos we have that are free. These videos are up on our website free, even if you're not a member. Several years ago, the executive director and I wrote a grant, which we keep getting renewed. But the one thing that we do have to do according to the grant is anything that we use the grant money for must be open to every counselor around the world, basically, because it's up on YouTube, most of our things. But that, I looked at that video today. It's about an hour and 40 minutes. It's a chunk of time, but if you're going into a high school, or if you're having an interview at a high school, you may want to spend that time. I think it will be very well spent.
Yeah, and even in interviews, some districts that I've interviewed at have asked me to do a graduation audit on students.
Yes.
So
yeah.
getting on the website and making sure that you know what the graduation requirements are, the different pathways a student can achieve a diploma or a local diploma. The diploma types, because like I mentioned, there are so many diploma types in the state of New York. Going through my audits right now with my students and making sure that they're going to get the right diploma type is going to be very important. And I've had interviews where I was asked to do 6 graduation, look at a transcript, analyze it, and give my feedback of what diploma type the student would get. Did they pass the regents? So understanding the regents requirements, understanding all the different aspects that go into whether a student passed their courses and their diploma type. So that's going to be really, really important for folks that are going into the high school.
I just want to commend Corey on his honesty and how important it is to learn that you're not going to have all the answers when you walk in. And I think as an administrator, what you're looking for, especially in that interview process, when you're working with someone, you can't expect people to know the answers yet. You can expect them to know, I would use these resources. This is the resource that I'm aware of. And now you already have three. You have the NYSSCA website, you have the NYSSCA website, and you also have a YouTube page that's filled with different ways to learn how to be a better counselor. So remember the resources over the answers. And that's a very important thing that will always carry you through.
And I don't want to say that this is only for high school counselors, because you will
Oh,
have
no.
elementary school parents calling you to find out what classes in middle school my students should take. Middle school counselors are going to ask when my child gets to ninth grade, what classes should they really have on their schedule to make sure that they graduate. Some students will also want to try to graduate accelerated. So getting them on the right path. And we have a hand up from Ray, so I guess let's let Ray.
Exactly, towards that, just reinforcing what Corey and Lisa have been saying. Even as experienced counselors, you never know all the answers because things are changing. So you have to stay current with it. And related to what Corey was just saying, working in middle school my entire career, I'm constantly speaking to parents and students about graduation requirements because their transcripts in many districts are starting in the middle school in 7th or 8th grade when they start taking high school level Regents classes, and making sure they understand that those classes will be on a transcript, which will go to the colleges or to the employees that they're doing. The other two things I wanted to mention towards promotional guidelines, not everyone is, and Corey, you were mentioning it about the local diplomas or skills credentials. Some of our students, they may not be going towards a Regents diploma, and we want to make sure that that again starts sometimes in the middle school to prepare the students and the parents of what the post-secondary options are going to be. Because sometimes I've had students and families that were not going to be on track for college level classes or going to college, and they were talking about becoming a doctor or a lawyer, and we have to start those conversations much earlier about their ability levels, but that they could still have productive functioning careers moving forward. And the last thing related to this is, besides promotional guidelines, making sure if you have somebody who wants to be a student athlete, that they're paying attention to the NCAA requirements, and that you check and make sure that your classes that you're advising students on, because prior to this, I worked in the college in financial aid. We'd had students that thought they were getting a full ride scholarship until they spoke to us, and we realized not all the classes they took were approved.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, and I just sat through actual in-person presentation from the NCAA. Their head of compliance came in from Indianapolis to talk to us. That we could have a whole webinar just on that. I was actually with that. I think I might reach out to him to see if we would talk to the counselors in New York State. And we have Mary. Mary wants to talk. She's been waiting patiently. Thank you.
That's okay. I just wanted to add, Kathy mentioned that the video on our NYSSCA website is Melissa Montague from New York State Education Department. She is a fabulous resource. If you go on the website or look at her email in the video report, she does a monthly update. And if you get on her mailing list, she will send you updates regarding any changes in the diploma requirements as well as state ed changes. And she's wonderful to work with. She's actually going to be zooming into our Monroe County Counselor meeting tomorrow morning in Victor, and to answer questions about transcript reviews and graduation requirements. So she's a wonderful resource. Try to check out her her mailing list so that you can get on that if you're a high school counselor.
Thank you, Mary. And Kathy.
Just to piggyback on what Mary was saying about getting on Melissa's mailing list. Very important if you're for those interviews for high school positions. But she's got another webinar coming up in June. So get on that list tonight so you get information from her. Get on her mailing list tonight.
All right. Oh, Lisa, you want to put
No, I
something in
wanted
before
to
we
say
move on?
knowledge is power. And when you are on a mailing list and you get all these emails, don't wait for your supervisors to educate you about what you need to know, because they're busy educating themselves on what they need to know. And what you bring to the table as a counselor is ideas and thoughts and direction. So if you are aware of state mandates changing, you bring your knowledge to the table as well. And this is how you work well with your administrators, by not being in the dark, but understanding what changes are happening and being on top of things. Thanks, Corey. Sorry.
I think Ray wants to add one more thing.
Yes, I think we're going to keep going back and forth. What Lisa was just saying about that. The other thing is, in my career, I've been in one building, one district the entire career. I've had times where I had a director of guidance. I've had times where I reported just into my building principal, who is not, building principals are running buildings. They're not always aware of the requirements that are coming out. And that, just like Lisa said, it's important that we're staying current so we can advise them and send them the links and the information as we become aware of it.
Thank you. So I think we'll move on to the next question. This was probably one of the more popular questions from the outside as well. It's the big question, I think, of anyone that's going to become an educator, whether it be K through 12 or even higher education, tenure. So the tenure process, what tenure is, how long does it take to get tenure? What happens if you don't get offered tenure? And kind of on that lines, well, we can stick with tenure for now, and then but on kind of on those lines, what is the process of moving along during those years before tenure? And I have our first hand is Kathy Corbett, who was also an your superintendent, assistant superintendent for human resources.
Yeah,
So
so I
she
know
did a lot of the
I'm gonna
hiring
do
and
that.
approving it. So I'll let you
Well,
talk.
no, I don't prove it. The superintendent does.
Yeah.
But I did not know that I knew I would be asked this question. So I put together a very short little PowerPoint, Corey. So I'm going to share
Yeah,
my
please share your
screen if that's all
screen.
right with you. Okay. All right. So let me just get this. Now I lost where my screen. There it is. Okay. All right. So tenure. All right. What is it? A very simple definition is tenure provides those teachers who have demonstrated competence after a probationary period with due process. All right. It means you have rights. So you are safe if you have obtained tenure. And that does take some work on your part. However, tenure does not guarantee a job for life. So how do you get it? Well, there is a probationary period. It is 4 years if you have never been tenured in a district. However, if for some reason your family moves and you need to go to Rochester from Long Island, and you've had tenure in a school district on Long Island, and now you are lucky to be hired by the Victor School District, all right, you will then have a tenure period of 3 years. But during those 4 or 3 years, you are going to have someone supervising you, maybe few people supervising you. You will be evaluated. You should be, as an untenured person, evaluated at least 4 times a year, okay? You then, once you have done that period of time, your immediate supervisor at the end of your 3 or your 4 years will look at your evaluations over the year. And if they believe you are someone the district really wants to keep, obviously you would be gone by now if there was a problem, but that supervisor will write a letter recommending you for tenure to the superintendent of schools. It doesn't end there. The superintendent of schools may or may not want to interview you themselves, but it is the superintendent of schools, based on your supervisor's recommendation, will either recommend you or not to the Board of Education. And it is the Board of Education, whoops, sorry about that. It's the Board of Education that actually gives you or approves you for your tenured position. All right, so that's how you get it. It's 3-4 years doing excellent work. A supervisor recommends you to the superintendent. The superintendent then will recommend you to the Board of Education, but it is the Board of Education that votes to approve your tenure. Okay.
Dr. Corbett, I'm just monitoring the chat and we have a question. Is the process
Sure.
for tenure the same as the process for charter schools and private schools?
I cannot, I know nothing about charter schools or private school. They are entities unto themselves.
Yeah,
So
and
it-
private and
best-
charter private schools also don't have to follow New York State diploma
Any
type
rules.
guidelines. So there's a
Right.
lot of differences. When we're talking 95% of the time, we're going to be talking about what it means to be at a public school for the
Yeah,
state of New
K-12
York.
public schools.
We
Yeah.
do have a private school liaison, and you can get her information off the our NYSSCA website.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, what's her name? Oh my gosh,
Ms.
Christine
Curcio.
Curcio.
Christine Curcio.
Christine Curcio. She is our private school liaison. So if you want to go on the website, please feel free to go on NYSSCA website and send her an email, because that's a great question. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, right?
Just two other things I was thinking about related to tenure. One is anyone who is doing a leave replacement. Very often you may get it when you're doing the leave replacement, you're not on that tenure track. But if you apply, let's say your job now becomes available in that district and you apply for it, you can negotiate. It's not automatically that that leave that year or 6 months will count. But when you're speaking to them, if you also offered the job, you can negotiate that and ask them to include the time that you did as the leave replacement. And it's very, very important to pay attention to the board minutes when they approve you for the position, that it says when your tenure starts and when you'll be eligible. And the other thing that I have seen happen, especially during COVID, some of the districts, especially ours, was not feeling comfortable with after the 4-year time frame. So they do have the option of extending and giving you a letter saying that they're going to extend it for another year. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as in the end you end up with your tenure.
And
Ray, I love that you also mentioned that you can negotiate. So all those folks who are teachers prior to coming into counseling and you sit down and you look at your contract, it is a place you can advocate for yourself, and they will negotiate whether you start on step 1, step 2. Although teaching doesn't carry over for your tenure as a counselor, it can affect your pay scale.
And we're going to talk a little bit about contracts and understanding that a little bit later, but thank you. No worries,
Yeah.
Lisa. One of the things that you did mention, Kathy. Oh, were you done with your presentation? I'm sorry.
No.
Oh,
In fact, there is so much in regulations and in law that revolve around tenure. I mean, Ray and the team were discussing it last night. I mean, there are a lot of nuances to that. So becoming involved in a NYSSCA union is also helpful. If you've got an unusual situation where you've been hired or you're a leave replacement and then hired, there are a lot of nuances to tenure, but I'm just giving you the down and dirty kind of, this is what it is, all right? It is a safeguard that protects your civil rights. It ensures that good educators, you cannot be fired for reasons of race, gender, age, religion, handicapping, or sexual orientation. Those are no-nos. It ensures, and I have this one in red, and I'll tell you why. It ensures that good teachers cannot be fired because of cronyism or local politics. I have that in red only to let you know that that should not be happening. Does it happen? Yes, it does. All right. So be very aware of local politics, get a good understanding, don't get involved in it, but that cannot, all right, whether you're political or not, or related to somebody in the school district or on the board, should not affect tenure. Can it affect getting a job? Yes, it can, but it should not affect you getting tenure or being fired. All right, it ensures that you can't be fired for pregnancy, ladies, so don't worry about that. The other thing I wanted to mention was seniority. All right, I have had a very long career in education, and during those years, I have been accessed 3 times. All right, which basically means that for whatever reasons, the school budget for the following year would not support the number of teachers, and at this point it was an English department at the high school level, would not support 3 teachers. Now, I wasn't low man on the totem pole, but I wasn't number 1 in the department either. I happened to be the 3rd from the bottom. So I was accessed, and then I was accessed as a school counselor. But it happens, all right? Tenure doesn't ensure your job. It ensures your civil rights, okay? However, if you are I was the 3rd one from the bottom. I was the 1st one called back once the situation at that district improved and they were hiring teachers back. And eventually the person who was at the bottom of the list was invited back, but they had already gotten another job, which they were very happy for. So seniority is another thing you want to make sure you understand and pay attention to, especially as a school counselor. All right. And here are just some of the things that Corey's already mentioned, but this is us, NYSSCA.org. There, and I'm going to put a push in for this. If you are a NYSSCA member, one of the benefits of being a NYSSCA member is you are able to be involved with communitynyssca.org. This is a platform that it's kind of like a listserv. Every member of NYSSCA is on this community, and I spend every morning probably about a half hour to an hour answering questions, welcoming people to our community, giving them an idea of what to expect. But this is the place, this is our town square. This is where you could come and ask for advice, not just from NYSSCA board members, but from school counselors around the state, which I find pretty amazing. The other thing you really should be looking at is NYSSCA, which is the New York State United Teachers. You will more than likely become a member unless you work in New York City. Then you would be a member of the UFT, which is the United Federation of Teachers. All right. So New York State United Teachers, that's the majority of the teachers in the state. New York City has their own union, which is the United Federation of Teachers. So those are just some important websites that you can go visit and get yourself a little acclimated to some of the terms and some of the other questions you may have. I'm telling you, NYSSCA has the answer. UFT has the answer for you. Okay. All right, Corey, that's it.
Yes, and we have Lisa have her hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, Ray made a good point about the board minutes. If you save the board minutes from when you are first hired, because if it says 3 names, Lisa Milady, Dr. Corbett, Ray Polk, and then there's excess, believe it or not, the person who is typed first on the same day, typed into the document, whether it's ABC order or however they decide to do it, has seniority over you. It's a very strange thing. So pay attention to that. And I also
But-
wanted to say, as you are having a job and you are interviewing for a job, there are many positions right now because of foundation aid that are through grants that are temporary. They may not be tenure track. And as you are in an interview, feel free to say, can you tell me the funding source? Is this a tenure track position? And have a discussion. Ultimately, it's up to you. Experience is wonderful, and you have to really see what resonates with yourself. But these are great questions to ask.
Yeah, and then the postings, a lot of them will say probationary.
Yeah.
And probationary means tenure track typically. It's Kathy.
I just wanted to clarify a little bit about what Lisa said. Very important to save that board record of when you were hired, but that would be only if you were in the same department. All right.
Oh,
It
yeah.
wouldn't be. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure they understood that.
Yeah.
That's
That
all.
was a good clarification. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So a couple of things were kind of discussed there that were questions that we had. I have on the list. Would anyone like to talk about observations and how they can affect your employment? But Ray mentioned it could be multiple different people observing you, and how it can vary per every district. That each district have their own process of observations.
Yeah.
I guess I can jump in since you mentioned, I can only speak to my specific district as far as observations, but I am aware from the local affiliates talking to counselors in other areas of Nassau and Suffolk County. But in my personal situation, I have been observed by building leaders, building administrators, central office administrators. Some of them were school counselors. Some of them have never done school counseling. So it's very important that you know who you are and what you do, because one of my observations, it was originally done as they were using a school teaching model, and they were observing me doing a group lesson with students that was not a classroom lesson. So I did not have a lesson plan, and I didn't have my questions on the board that they were looking for. Another time, I was observed in a parent meeting using a document that was meant for a classroom, but that was before they came up with a system in place where there's actually a school counseling model that covers what we do as school counselors. But again, it is very specific from my understanding of who it is that's doing the observations.
I can speak for my district and my union. Our APPR is different from the teachers' APPR, yet we do follow a Danielson rubric. So whenever I am being observed, I make sure that I am following that rubric in my lesson. As Ray said, he's been supervised in different areas. And you can be supervised in a CSE meeting, in a building study team meeting,
Right, yeah.
in a classroom presentation, in a small group session, even a one-to-one session. So the goal of every observation may be a little bit different, but I would attend every teacher meeting. I would become, well, I have done for myself. I have attended all the teacher meetings. I have become educated on what my district expects of their teachers. And this way, when I am observed, even though I'm different as a counselor, I still have an awareness of what my supervisors are looking for. Sometimes it is my principal. Sometimes it is my my superintendent at one point comes and observes everybody, and then my pupil personnel director as well. So there's many different varied wonderful ways that you can become very nervous because someone's going to watch what you do.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand, like, that is part of being a counselor, especially your first couple of years, is being observed. Observations are part of education. Teachers are observed, counselors are observed, administrators are observed. So it's really important part of your first couple of years as a new counselor. Many people don't realize how often they're going to be observed. And I think Lisa kind of talked about it, but it's should be in your district contract, how you are observed, what observations look like. So make sure when you are hired at a school, you're looking at the contract. I think it was mentioned for the tenure as well. See what the rules and regulations, what your district looks like, because you will be following what your district tells you is what is to be followed. We had Ray, but he put his hand down, and Mary.
I just want to add that your training as school counselors is going to come in handy in those observations. In our district, we're asked to identify the counseling theories we utilize in our counseling sessions and in our work. So keep your notes handy, keep your notebooks close to you, so you can go back and reference. They will be helpful.
Thank you. Kathy?
Yeah, just one last thing. If you're lucky enough to be in a district where they follow good supervision, you will have a pre-observation meeting with your supervisor. They will come in, you'll discuss about what it is you are going to be doing, that they will be watching, and then they'll come in, and then there's a post-observation where they will give you that kind of feedback for improvement. So hopefully that's the experience everyone has. That's what should happen.
Thank you. Okay, so I think the next question we can move on to, Kathy kind of talked about it in her tenure in the last slide about NYSSCA and UFT, but also each district typically has their own union, a physical union. And a lot of people
Chapter. Yeah.
a chapter. A lot of new counselors and new employees in general don't understand the importance or why they should join a union, if they should join the union. Would anyone like to talk about if a new counselor should join the union, what the benefits may be of joining the union, and when they should join the union? And I see our first hand right away from Ray. Okay, go ahead, Ray.
Okay, I have to say that the union, it is there to protect, it protects everyone, whether you join or not. You will be protected by the union contract if you're in a school that has a union, which the public schools do. But by being a member of it, you now have the ability to be part of committees, to be able to vote on it. And I would suggest to everyone here, when you get a job in a school as a school counselor, to become active in your unions, because remember that we are not the critical care team or the collective care team of school counselors, nurses, social workers, psychologists. We're all part of the teachers union, but we are outnumbered. So very often the union is looking at how many students can be in a classroom and how long is a period and things like that. And not that they don't care about us, but they don't know what our needs are. So by us being part of the union and being part of committees, we now have a vote, we have a say. And when we see things that we think that would benefit the school in our role, we can bring that to the union. And now it's not 3 school counselors in a building of 70 employees, 70 educators asking for something. It's the union asking for it in a collective manner. So it's definitely there to protect us. And I can't suggest more getting involved in your local affiliates when you get that position.
Kathy, did you want to add something? You had your hand
Well,
up?
I just wanted to say, because that question makes me think that there might be someone who is hesitant about joining a union. It might be financial, because some union dues are, between the local union, which is part of NYSSCA, and then your NYSSCA. But whether you literally fill out a piece of paper and become a member, your union dues will still be deducted from your salary. All right, it's just part of bargaining that has gone on for years, and it's pretty standard that whether you sign on to become a union member, the dues are still taken out of your paycheck. So you might as well get your card and be a union member, because there are far more benefits than anything for not joining. I can't even imagine why you wouldn't, you know.
The NYSSCA benefits itself, I've only been in the union for a NYSSCA member for 2 years, but the things you get in the mail on the NYSSCA website, the discounts you get, I could just got something for life insurance, for $50,000 life insurance, but it sounds silly, but these things add up. They are really important. You have group benefits. When you're a part of a large group in a large collective bargaining unit, it makes a big difference, and you want to have a voice in that. So I've joined, even when I was subbing, I joined the sub unions, and not every district had a sub union, but I still joined the sub union because I knew that we were protected, and we also were. I was in some of the highest paying districts while I was in grad school. Once I got my one of my certifications, I joined the union and was getting paid well because the union had fought for really good pay for subs to encourage subs.
Yeah.
Did I see, Mary? Did you have your hand up? Yeah. Mary, you're on mute still.
I just wanted to add that NYSSCA is partnering with NYSSCA too, and collaborating with them and helping NYSSCA understand what NYSSCA members need and what school counselors need. So I think it's important that we continue to partner and communicate together. NYSSCA is a very large union, and if they can understand our roles and responsibilities and partner with us, that will help school counselors in the long run as well.
Thank you, Mary. We are approaching 8 o'clock, so I know some classes, if there are groups here, classes may start at 8 o'clock. So if you do have to go off, we will continue for a little bit longer. And like I mentioned, this is being recorded. So whatever we talk about from the beginning of the recording till we end our session, it will be posted on NYSSCA YouTube station, which Kathy had shown everyone a little while ago. So if you do have to sign off, no worries. We appreciate you coming, but we will stay on for a little bit longer because we do have a couple more questions. If any panelists are okay with staying another 5-10 minutes,
That's fine.
If you do need to log off yourself, please feel free. So I kind of we've answered a lot of questions so far. I think looking at my list of things I really would like, I think students would like to know more about, especially after our pre-meeting yesterday. How do you know if you're getting paid appropriately? How do you see the employment contract, and what are steps? So one of the things I think Ray mentioned yesterday in our meeting is one of the awesome sites that people try to keep secretive, especially the upper administration probably, is seethroughnewyork.org, I believe. seethroughnewyork.org. It is, I don't know, it's not like a watchdog, but it does, being public employees, you can see what every public employee in the state of New York makes. So you can go and look up, it's .net, thank you. It's either .org or .net, so, but thank you. seethroughnewyork.net. You could go in and see what employees are making at the schools that you're looking at, just to make sure you're getting paid appropriately, but also know that you're getting proper salaries. Looking at the employment contract is going to be super important. Ask the Human Resources Department to see what the what benefits are available to you, what pay scale looks like. And I think a lot of people still don't understand what the steps are. Would anyone like to talk about anything I just talked about, or what the steps are?
Well, steps basically just mean the number of years that you've been employed and also your education level. So many of our graduating counselors, if they don't believe they've had any experience similar to what they'll be doing as a school counselor, will more than likely come into a school district on step 1 with a master's. There are also step 1 to, goes up, depending on the contract, could go up to 30. Some contracts go up to 30 with a PhD, but each contract is different from district to district. But the steps mainly are how many years you've been in the district and then your education. So step 1, BA, that's That's an entry-level salary. You guys will all be coming in step one with a master's, which is a little more than step 5 usually with a bachelor's.
And then
So you'll be able to pay back your loans.
I don't know if Ray could talk about this too, coming from, I don't know if you have 2 masters like I do, but I'm a person that has 2 masters because I was in higher education beforehand. My first master's counted as my master's. So I'm currently master's plus 45 in my district because
Yeah,
I had a master's already. So if anyone has a master's already from another, it doesn't matter what degree it was, you will be required. Well, mine is higher ed. My districts did not
Your
said
district was
anything
never
bad.
mind.
But you will have to provide all of your transcripts, your undergraduate transcripts, your graduate degree transcripts, all that for verification to make sure that they put you in the appropriate step with possible additional credits. And then when you are all pursuing, if you are the master's plus and you're trying to get your permanent certification, those should start counting towards your master's plus. Doing so, you'll have to check with your district. And once again, looking at your contract is going to be really important to see what the district allows you to do to earn additional credits towards that master's plus. They could be in-service credits that can start counting towards that, which that's a whole nother webinar as well. It could be attending conferences that provide continuing education credits. I know if you attend the the ASCA conference, they have a partnership with a university that you can earn 3 credits, but make sure that everything is approved and permitted by your district, and that's all going to be outlined in your contract. And there will be people in human resources that will be able to tell you whether or not those will be approved. And we have Ray that has his hand up.
Yeah, well, what you had mentioned, unfortunately, I didn't have a second master's, but that really would have been up to each individual school. It's not a guarantee. Like I had a corporate background, so my master's probably, if I had one, it probably would not have carried forward necessarily. But my corporate experience taught me about negotiating. And remember that you do have the ability to negotiate, because even though I had never worked in education before, I was able to leverage my experiences, and I was a corporate trainer, so I was able to leverage that and the other experiences I had during the time, from the time I graduated with my degree until I started, I was offered the position in my school. I was able to use the things I had done in professional development, trainings, volunteering for, doing trainings with NYSSCA and doing trainings with my local affiliates. I was able to package that and get a few years. So I did not start at step 1. I was able to start them at step 3. So it's all a matter of how much they want you and how good of a negotiator you are, but just be careful not to negotiate yourself out of the offer.
Out of the job. He was a very good negotiator.
Okay. We are, like I said, we're running out of time, and I want to be respectful of the panelists' time as well as our participants. I want to do a webinar on jobs, which I did last year or 2 years ago. So, and I'm trying to figure out which of these last 3 questions would be the best for our students. Do a quick. Well, if we want to do a quick raise of hands or thumbs up, thumbs down for these topics from our participants, which question would you like most answered? I probably could do a poll, but I don't know how to do that. Out of these 3, thumbs up for.
Why don't you just say all 3 questions and have people put in the chat, and whichever one is coming up fast.
Yeah, put it, there we go. Put in the chat. How do I find a job? How do I get noticed? How can I get involved in my school and the counseling community? So which one would you like our panelists to talk about more? Finding a job, your first job, getting noticed for a job, or getting involved? Okay, let's see.
I,
Getting noticed.
I think we have a lot of getting noticed.
Oh boy, yeah. It is so or it's yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Since
that's
getting noticed
easy.
is
That's easy.
kind of can
That's
be
easy.
yeah, there we go. Kind of getting noticed can be kind of how finding jobs. Let's go. How can someone be successful in getting noticed and the kind of
I'm
leading to a
going to
job?
answer that
Yeah.
because on my screen, Ray is right next to me. And that young man not only is a good negotiator, but he was also a good, here I am, notice me. And what Ray did, I'm telling your story again, Ray. He was at every activity that was going on Long Island. We have 3 groups, counseling groups, Nassau Counselors Association, Western Suffolk, and East End. Anytime I was at a meeting, Ray was there. Anytime there was a college fair, Ray was there. In fact, I did give Ray his first job. Okay, so that's true. I had so many directors of school counseling angry at me that I had stolen him away from them. They didn't, he was looking for a job. I offered him a job. I didn't steal him away from anybody, but he made sure that he put himself out as a volunteer and people noticed him. And that was probably I took a cue from him. So Ray, go on, your hands up.
Well,
That's
just as
fine.
Kathy was saying, what I would suggest to anyone to answer 2 of those questions, Corey, how do you find the job and how do you get
That's
noticed
all.
once you're in the job? Both of them, what Kathy said, getting involved. Don't just join associations. Don't just put on there you're a member of NYSSCA or your local affiliates. Join the affiliates, go to the activities that they're doing. A lot of them have luncheons within every region within the state. Some regions don't have the local affiliate, but you have regional governors like Mary and like Dr. Corbett. Contact your regional governors, find out what things they're doing. Volunteering is the best way I think you can get noticed. And then once you do get the job in a school district, 2 things: continue volunteering for those associations, because school districts like to be able to say, we have so-and-so that presented here or presented there. So if you're involved, they're going to be happy that you're going out to these things and you can count it. You don't have to take a day off. You can put in that you're attending a conference, and every school has their process of how they do it. But the other thing is that within your school, there'll be plenty of opportunities to be able to either present to the faculty at faculty meetings or to collaborate with your colleagues. You have to sit back, see what's going on, and just quietly, the way I did it is not going in telling people how to do things. I asked a lot of questions, and the questions let the people who know that I knew what was going on and I wasn't saying how to do it. I was asking a question to keep us on track, and it worked out very well. And I was able to get noticed in a very subtle way within the district.
And once you get noticed, what's we got Lisa. Lisa wants to
Oh,
talk.
that's okay. No, okay. Well, I wanted to talk about getting noticed, and I think what you're also looking for is that resume, because for one job, there will be thousands of resumes. So how do you get noticed? And then again, how do you stand out? Remember what I said before, knowledge is power. I'll speak personally. When I applied for my elementary position, there were over 1,000 applicants, and in my interview process, I had a background in drug and alcohol counseling. And so a lot of my interview said, what do you know about this? And what is your background knowledge? And that was back in the 90s when there was a lot of talk culturally. So now let's talk about what's happening culturally, diversity and equity, and all of those other topics. So if you can create a resume, look at every district's mission and look at what their student population is and become an expert in that field. It can be as simple as having a background knowledge, or maybe highlighting one of the classes you took in college. This is my passion. This is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. And whenever you are interviewing, if this is a wonderful digital world we live in, you can tweak your resume to put those experiences up there. And so the first thing that they see is what they want in their district. you're selling yourself and your passion, and you're also looking for a district that hears you, feels you, and gets your song. We are all singing a beautiful song and we want to be heard, and we have to find that match and fit. So one, knowledge is power. Stand up by giving yourself extra knowledge that another person may not have. And then make sure that you do the research for the district, and make sure your resume and your cover letter, don't ever send out the same cover letter to everybody. Oh, dear, 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 don't do that. Make sure you are matching yourself to that district, what they want. Sell yourself, bring yourself there, arrive.
Yeah, Mary?
I was just going to say, make sure you research the district and speak to it. When they ask you if you have any questions at the end of the interview, make sure that you've researched that website, just like you did with colleges, and you research your colleges, right? Research the school district website, look at what is going on, formulate a question that you may have regarding how they manage it, if they need people as coaches or as advisors to clubs and activities, things like that. Think about what you could bring to that district that is unique, and share that in your cover letter, in your resume, and in your interview.
Thank you, Mary. Kathy?
Yeah, everything Lisa and Mary have said about getting the job is so important. But make sure not only are you addressing the mission of the district, please make sure that you are using proper English, that there are no typing errors, because I'll tell you, having an English background, the minute I saw a resume with something that was probably a typo, and not that the person didn't know how to spell, it kind of went over to the side of my desk. All right. The other thing you want to be especially careful about is your social media profile. I would check social media. If there was a candidate that looked too good to be true, I was on Facebook and whatever else. I don't do Twitter, but certainly Facebook and Instagram. All right. I would be looking to see if the candidate had and most of them do. Just make sure yours is the one that will not have anything that will keep you from getting a job or even an interview. Just be very careful about your social media.
As Dr. Corbett just mentioned, there's positive ways to get noticed and there are negative ways to get noticed.
Yep.
So your social media can be a negative way to get noticed. So please be careful.
Just be careful.
Just like athletes and professional actors and whatever, their social media is criticized. People will go back and dig, especially if you're going to be working with children. They want to make sure that you are going to be a good representative of their district, that if parents do the exact same thing, that they will not find anything negative about you. Mary, yeah?
I just want to add one last thing. Dress professionally for your interview. Make sure that you are, look at the website, look at how people are dressed, go to a Board of Ed meeting, do something, take a walk around the campus or the school, see how people are coming out dressed. Dress professionally. It's really important. Your first impression is a lasting impression.
Thank you, Mary. Ray?
Mary, related to that though, I would suggest, my dogs are barking, sorry. I would suggest though, the professional part, yes, look at what people are wearing, but sometimes you may go to the school and see some people, like today, I didn't wear a tie. If I was interviewing, I would definitely have a tie on, and a sport jacket. So you want to be dressed as if you're going in for, you're a professional, you have a master's degree. So even if they're wearing jeans and flip-flops, you want to go in wearing a professional outfit. And, the other thing is what you're wearing on your body as far as colognes. I've sat on interview boards and people walk in and you have to open the windows because, the fragrances are a little overpowering. So I would suggest conservative and across the board with everything.
Someone asked about Zoom interviews. Lisa just responded to them, but yeah, definitely. Well, top definitely should be professional. I wouldn't risk the bottoms, but just be professional anytime you're going to be interviewing. It's not worth taking the chance, in my opinion. Need background. Yeah, I don't typically have this background. When I was doing Zoom interviews, I had a much better background than this. Well, you can't see my children's playpen right in the back, but find a nice room. Dr. Corbett has a green screen sometimes, depending on where she is. So if you can afford something like that, which they are not very expensive during interview season, just go on Amazon and get a green screen. If you're
Or
gonna
it's a
have to do
piece of green felt.
Yeah.
Go to
Oh, yeah.
Michael's.
Anything green,
Poster board, green
Yeah.
poster board.
anything that if you're going to have to do Zoom interviews, if you're going to have to do a literal 5 to 10 minute in-person get to know you interview, you're going to be dressing professionally. Just don't take chances. Like Ray said, be conservative. This dress is something that is looked upon. Okay, so we are at 8:15. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I want to thank our panelists. I also want to recognize that Laura Mesa, one of our board members, is here. So thank you, Laura, for being here as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much once again to our panelists for taking this couple hours out of your time to speak to all of our, a lot of our graduate students and our graduate educators. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me that we had so many participants, all of you students and possible professors that gave us some of your time tonight to be here to listen to our wonderful panelists talk about some of the important things that I wish I had known going into my first year. That's, like I said at the beginning, I learned so much in my first years, just figuring out how to be a counselor. And it's a lot of things, not to say anything bad about our graduate experience. There are things you don't realize you did not learn. You may not have learned how to write a letter recommendation. You may have not learned how to go over graduate requirements. You may have not learned what it's like to sit in an IEP or 504 meeting, which we didn't have time to get to today. But we definitely will host something like this in the future. I would love to do, yeah, if we need another webinar on 504s. I think there is one on the, yeah. I would love to do one on, like I did a couple years ago about finding your first job. I could talk about OLAS for people downstate. Mary, I'm not sure where folks upstate and look for jobs, but OLAS as well for the most part.
Yeah.
It's such a great website. Get networking, recruitment, finding people, attending the NYSSCA conference in November, networking there. Kathy mentioned the communities that are now active, only about a month and a half now, and they're so active on the NYSSCA website, and you must be a NYSSCA member to join to look at those. The lesson plans that are on NYSSCA that Kathy mentioned, we get a grant from, is that a Gates grant?
That's a Gates grant.
So we got money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or is it just Melinda now?
I'm not sure, but
No, I think they're still, they're both still funding.
It's still Bill, okay.
It's still the Bill and Melinda Gates.
So those are open to anyone it's an open source for a lesson plan. The wonderful webinars that our experts on the board, as well as our experts throughout the state, come and talk to our members about the state conference. If you are graduating this year, it is on the agenda for our board meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I have confirmed with our executive director, we'll be once again voting on whether or not we should give our graduates of the class of 2023 a free membership for 1 year. So those of you graduating, keep an eye out for the email from myself, from NYSSCA. I don't know if NYSSCA did. I know I sent it out last year. From Dr. Lustica, we'll probably send it out to our graduate educators. we would be voting, and I would be very disappointed if that does not pass, that all of our class of 2024 graduates will get a free year of NYSSCA. And remember that graduate students, you get a 50% off discount immediately, just right now, if you want to sign up for NYSSCA. And then we also run a promo for the last couple of years during school counseling week that we discounted it even further, another 50% for graduate students and for general membership. And that if you do that during school counseling week, it will add an entire year at half cost. So I can't thank you all enough for your participation
Thank you, Corey.
tonight. Our panelists,
Thank
you
you.
were wonderful. Ray does have his hand up, so
Well, I just want to end with the whole thing of getting involved in attending. In the chat, as we're going through, I see that it looks like Mary just posted. Everyone here, there's your first possible application you can put in that the job offers are already putting out there. So that's the benefits of being involved in attending and networking, that you become aware of the things that are out there.
yes.
You're still looking for psychologists too, Mary? I'll just mention that. Somebody may know somebody.
Okay. Well, thank
Good
you
luck,
all
everyone.
so
Thank you,
much.
Corey.
Thank you all for attending. Once again, this is recorded. It will be uploaded within the next day or two, hopefully within 24 hours, maybe even sooner. Thank you all, the panelists who are awesome, participants who are awesome at participating and being here. It really means a lot to me and to the board members as well, that you took time out of your busy schedules as well. That's all I got, and keep an eye out. I will try my best to do a webinar about the job application process, hopefully in the next couple
Perfect.
month or two. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna
everyone.
stop recording.
Congratulations on your graduations.
Yes,
Good
congratulations to all
luck,
those graduating.
everyone. Good luck.
Yeah. Best of luck job hunting. Good luck.
Good luck to all. God bless.